when we closed the factory down, I had to look at where I was going to go. During those periods when I was feeling vulnerable, who could I turn to? They would say, well, hold on. Look what you've done. I've had friends who said to me, you let your son pursue music. You're a fool. He should have been in medicine. Look at where you are right now. From, having everything, you're becoming doubtful. Are you going to come out the other side? I kept telling myself, it's about getting over today. And there's a reason for this. And obviously I had a vision as well.
Imagine carrying the weight of expectations, silent struggles, and the pressure to always have it together. The Dad Project is a space for open, honest conversations about men's mental health. Raw, real, and long overdue. In Season 2, we go deeper, sharing powerful stories and fresh perspectives from those who've lived it and those who help others through it. Filmed at the Old Court in Windsor, this season is about breaking stigmas, redefining strength, and starting conversations that matter. I'm your host, Naroop Juti. Let's talk. So, when I told my friends that in Season 2, I'm going to get my dad on a podcast, everyone's jaws dropped. The power of a son talking to a father about mental health, I think everybody knew what a riveting conversation that would be. Before we get into that, why don't you tell me, and obviously I know this story, but I would love for you to share it with the world. Who is Bindy and where did you come from? What was your childhood like? And a bit about who you were.
Well, we grew up in Delhi. A happy family. I mean, I can't remember any hardships when we were younger. Then, of course, when we came to the UK, my uncle, he had a business. So Dad was working for him. There was none of the usual challenges others may have, finding a job, new country, etc. But life has its own ways of throwing challenges at you. So as Dad progressed, one of the things that I noticed was addiction. My uncle was sadly going through a few challenges. And that's the first time I noticed someone that I really respected, somebody I would have thought could overcome all this. But he'd occasionally take me out and say, Binda, let's go out. I need a bottle of vodka. But later on, he'd also tell me, Bindy, the cure to these worries is not drink, it's work. So I guess I learned from that. I developed my interest in wanting to be a businessman through Uncle as well. So going forward, when we're at school, everybody's talking about, I want to be a doctor, I want to be an engineer, I want to be a pilot, whatever. I'm going around saying, I want to be a businessman, And I think that was because of Uncle.
Uncle, just for the listeners, is
my mum's brother.
Mum's brother. And he was the first Indian businessman, really.
He actually set up Southall, the very first businessman.
Southall being the hub of Indians in London. He was the first one to set up a business in Southall and really helped Southall become what it is today.
Absolutely, yeah.
So he had a profound effect on you, right?
Oh, he did. I love the guy. But to see him, I think he must have lost his life around about 50. And to see all that he built up, but we were too young to kind of carry that forward. So that was lost. But not that the family, didn't try. I'm sure we did, but I just feel that there was no one there at that time to help Uncle through his what the worries were. I still can't say what it was. I mean, he had a phenomenal business. He done very well, but there's something there.
What's interesting about that is if that was happening now, if someone is facing a challenge in their mind, it's a mental health challenge. They are suffering from something that they need coaching or help through, right? Sometimes people think of mental health as being something that means you are severely depressed or you are disadvantaged in some way. But sometimes the mental health is a challenge. Like you need to talk to somebody. You need to offload something.
Of course.
And we'll get into this later in the conversation, but he probably needed someone to talk to. He needed someone to help guide him through and not try to escape what was happening through, like you said, a bottle of vodka, which tends to happen and has happened so much and still does happen.
Yeah.
So you had experiences, I guess, from a very young age of seeing people that you respected facing challenges. And how did that make you feel?
I grew up with an attitude of wanting to develop myself. Didn't realize what that actually meant until much later. But I found myself depending more upon philosophical ways of handling situations. Yeah. So things happen to everybody. That there's no one that is, not going to go through challenges in life. But it's the way you handle them that ultimately determines whether, you come out with the other side or you succumb to it. So I guess I've always looked for a way to see the other side. The old saying, look at your glass half full. I've always seen my glass half full, not half empty.
Do you think that stemmed from people around you, like you said, uncle, or was that something you found in yourself?
No, that was, as far as I can see, it was just something that I developed over a period of time. I mean, the only time that I can say something might have pushed me more towards that is when I'd joined Jenny's dad,
Your wife,
my
mum,
wife, in business. And her father handed me a book, and that book was Think and Grow Rich.
Which you later asked me to read when I was in my 20s.
Absolutely. So that led me on to, overall success. I mean, to me, being rich doesn't mean just having money. It's being fulfilled in all aspects of your life. So through there, I learned about reading. So no doubt, because of it's an ongoing situation, I probably developed my thought process through that, I think. Yeah.
I love the story of when you were trying to work with your father-in-law, right? You went to the factory a number of times to be interviewed, and he was testing your desire, your determination. I'd love for you to share that story.
Yeah, I mean, Dad, bless him, I love the guy, more like a friend to me. When I first went to the factory, because I found out from my sister that they were looking, they just started out, they had about 10 employees.
And the factory was a denim wear.
Clothing factory, denim jeans. So my sister, she found out that they needed somebody who could do a bit of account and some selling. And I had just given in my notice where I was working as an accountant, or not an accountant, but in accounts. And I was going to start a venture with a friend of mine, which didn't materialize, so it almost died before it began. And then I remember my employer said, well, why don't you take your notice back? And I said, no. I've taken the step, something will turn up. So there was me, 20-odd. I was looking for an opportunity, and That's when my sister said, Bindy, why don't you try these guys? They need someone to do the books. You can do that. And you want to sell, you'll have a business. So I went to see Dad. He said, okay, I'll think about it. He asked me to come back. I went 2 or 3 times. And then eventually he said, yeah, I'll take you and you can work for me. And I said, no, I'm not working for you. I want to be my own businessman. And he kind of smiled and he said, okay, you can take my samples. So he gave me the samples, and within a couple of weeks, he could see that I was having challenges. So he said, Bindy, how's things going? I said, well, Uncle, it's not as easy as I thought. It's not just a matter of taking samples and showing to somebody and get the orders. He said, I thought so. That's why I said to you, come and work for me. I tell you what, you work for me for a couple of days, and 3 days you sell independently. And that was the kind of deal we had. So I started working in the factory, learning the ins and outs of the rag trade, and it proved to be a successful, business arrangement.
Throughout all of my childhood, I remember coming to work at the factory. And I was similar at school. When people were thinking about careers, I always used to say, I want to work with my dad. I'm going to grow the business. So even though I was creative from a young age, and I had creative inclinations, I never really followed them because I wanted to join the business, which I eventually did.
Yes, you did. And that's sad that pretty much after that, we had to fold it up.
Yeah. But what I remember is seeing you going and doing deliveries every day, driving from Southall, West London, all the way to Commercial Street in East London every day, back and forth, delivering. Yeah. And I'd go with you on those deliveries, and I'd see you go to shop to shop, dropping the jeans off, and highly respected by all of the clients. Everyone knew who you were. The factory grew to having a number of factories in India as well, and hundreds of employees. So for me, that was really motivational, knowing what someone can achieve and what someone can build. And I think was the reason why I am so ambitious to this day. But when I started working with you, and I've shared this story on podcasts too, within that year, the business folded.
Yeah.
And I had to see and witness what you and Mum had to go through. That was a challenging time. Even now, just thinking about it, it's so many emotions come up, because for me personally, I was thinking, okay, well, I'm going to take this business on. And now, okay, that deal's now gone, because I spent the last, teenage years thinking I'm going to build this business. That's gone. You and Mum having to go to markets and sell stock. That was difficult. But then the resilience of you having to find the strength. We're both going to cry.
Well, that was because, Naroop, when the business folded, if the truth be told, I could have raised some more money. But, the old story, I saw people running and I started running with them, and you forget why you're running. I actually, when that happened, when the business folded, I started thinking back to what did I really want and where have I ended up. I remember Jenny's father used to say to me, Bindy, why you keep building the businesses? Why you wanted to expand? I said, well, Dad, you got your own business, you want to expand. And he said, listen, I've got 5 daughters. Number 1 and 2 are married off. 3 more to go. I'm going to retire at 60 and I'm going to travel the world. He said, you got any objection? I said, no, Dad, because by that time he'd made us partners in the business. I said, no. But I just used to think, I want to grow the business. But then when I reflected back to my childhood, it's funny, I'm telling you now, when I was young, I used to say, I'm going to have a business, but I'm not going to have employees. I'm going to have business partners, right? I forgot that part, didn't I? About not going to have employees. We had about 10 when I joined Dad. We had about 500 when we decided to close it down. So I said, yeah. And I remember sitting in my office looking at Guru Nanak. I said, Babaji, this was not the deal. I wanted a business. You gave me a business. but I didn't want employees. You've given me 500. Can't handle it. And that is when I decided to get rid of everything. That's when you helped us get rid of the stock and, wow, a couple of years of turmoil. But that enabled Jenny to pursue her passion, because she'd always wanted to be in the beauty business, right? And we kind of set it up, and thank God, look at now where she is today. It left me free to search for my purpose.
So before we go on to you about searching a purpose, when you close a business, you must have gone through a lot of emotions. And I know, because I can vividly remember the whole time, you were obviously feeling a lot of stuff, but as a man, there's this idea that we've got to be strong and solid, which is true, emotionally stable, which is true, but you didn't have any therapy. I don't remember you talking to anybody about it. You probably had conversations with mum, right? But even then, as men, we want to show our partner that I'm good, don't worry about it, I've got everything under control. But a lot of the times we haven't. It's just stuff going on in our head and we're trying to make sense of it. You never turned to any abusive substances. I never remember a time of you sat just like lying in bed and wallowing in self-pity. But you were feeling something. Tell me about what you were feeling and tell me, how did you cope with it? Because like I said, I didn't see the traditional ways of dealing with challenges. And that must have affected your mental health, because 500 employees in a business and now you're facing, you were what, mid-40s? Right? So a few years older than me, I think you were. And everything that you knew has gone. Now you're searching for a new opportunity. You're searching for a new career. You're thinking what to do. There's people's reputation. What will people think of me? All those things. What were your thoughts? And how did you overcome that time?
The funny thing is, if you remember, when we closed the factory down, it was about that time that Nick came up to us and said...
Nick being...
My other son.
My brother.
Yeah. He said, Dad, I want to pursue my passion in music. There was you, me and Nick and Jenny in the factory. So on the one hand, I'm thinking, at least I've got one son going into a safe career, medicine. But then he says, I don't want to write prescriptions, I'd rather write music. So thank God his passion for music has worked out for him. But remember, at that time, I had to take that decision, let him pursue his passion. I had to look at where I was going to go. And luckily, we gradually found a way. But during those periods when I was feeling vulnerable, who could I turn to? You know, they would say, well, hold on. Look what you've done. And I've had friends who said to me, you let your son pursue music. You're a fool. He should have been in medicine. Look at where you are right now. From, having everything, you're becoming doubtful. Are you going to come out the other side? So yeah, could I turn to anybody? No, because you're thinking, who's going to listen to me? Because I haven't done what the obvious thing that they would have done. They said, I wouldn't have let my son go into music when you've just wrapped up your business. You were still looking for a career. You were working with us, right? But I think resilience, I think this is where I was talking about having a philosophical outlook on life. I kept telling myself, it's about getting over today. There's a reason for this. And obviously I had a vision as well. I was also quietly trying to see where my passion would take me. I think if I didn't have that light someone's candle project at the very back of my mind, because I had that dream once.
Tell me about the light someone candle project.
Well, I had a dream. It's like I'm outside a big stadium. There's thousands of us waiting in line to go in, and we're going to listen to this guy make a speech. Personal development, business, all that kind of stuff. And funny enough, as we're walking in, we're all being handled a candle. Yeah. So we all go in, we're all holding a candle, and then all of a sudden, all the lights in the stadium go out. So it's pitch darkness. Right? So when you look at it, so we've got the means, we've got a candle to light up the place, right? It's dark. And then we see one person walking to us in this auditorium, and he's got a candle, and he's lit. And he goes and he lights the next person's candle, and he tells him, light his candle. And the whole stadium lights up. And then the dream went. So I said, what was that about? So I just, in my mind, I just thought, light someone's candle. It wasn't until later that I applied to it what I wanted to do, which my passion was. I'm in business. I'm there to empower somebody else, And I love what you're doing now because you're empowering. You're into, changing people's lives who've got mental stress. I love what Nick's doing. So that's what this is.
And that's a beautiful dream. I think there's so many ways to interpret it, but I've always believed from a young age you want to help people. And it's never been about money. It's never been about greed. It's never been about self-promotion or showing off. It's about help. Looking back at it now, I can see that it probably worked out for your best interest based on the man that you are now, because it was a lot of stress. I remember sitting in the office and I'd be on the desk opposite you and I could hear one of your main buyers shouting at you because some of the orders from India were maybe coming in wrong or they were delayed. Mm-hmm. And as a son, hearing his father being spoken to aggressively by someone else, and I'm 21, fresh out of uni, I didn't know what to do. Mm. And, my options were limited in terms of how can I help you? We had fax machines then. There was no Google, right? I'm like, what do I do to help this business? How can I help mum and dad? What do I do? So for me, I felt my hands were tied. I just had to follow your lead. Mm. But as a dad with two sons, one who's now embarking on a career which is highly risky, the second not really knowing what to do now because his dream of joining you has evaporated. We both went to private school from 3 years old, so you did the best for us. But we're now following paths which didn't need the education. We didn't need that, although it's benefited us in countless other ways. Guiding your sons at that time, even when you were now facing your most difficult challenge, how did you prepare yourself for that? Or what did you feel you need to do? Was it this sense of, I just need to be strong and show them that I can face this because they're looking at me? Because I know I was lost. Mm. What were the feelings you were going through? Did you feel that pressure?
I knew at that time that simply I could not afford to fail. There was too much at stake. Just having brought you guys up, now there's a whole life to still go, right? So I did whatever I could. Because I believe, I don't know, and I'll admit this is not something that most fathers would tell their kids to follow your dream, but that's the way I am. I wanted you guys to be able to do what you wanted. And we had to look at the family needs. Luckily, because we had a good business, we weren't doing, poorly. We were okay, but it's about affording that going forward. So I did whatever we could. And it was about, we don't need a lot of money. We need enough to get by. And from that time, because time is the other thing, I always feel time is a healer. You can look at things, someone goes through hardship, and I remember this, the pain would seem great at the moment that you go through it. With the passage of time, nothing else may have changed, but somehow it's not manageable. And pain has got to become manageable for you to be able to take the actions needed. So, in the short term, it would have been easier to take to drinking because you're away from reality, but then in the long run, that's not going to help. I remember actually, Jenny told me, she said, Bindy, you're one of your customers. He was asking me, is Bindy okay? She said, yeah. No, but then he's trying to get out. He's not taken to, abusive drinking or abusive behavior. No. So those are expectations of some people, that if you go through challenges, that's what you're going to end up like, unless you control yourself, get the right guidance, whether it's through counseling, whether it's through, I didn't know that at that time.
Well, this is an interesting point. So what I was going to ask you is, if someone had said to you, Bindy, I know you're going through a stressful time. This must be a lot of weight on your shoulders, a lot of stress on your mind. There's a men's meetup group where you can go and speak to a group of men and just share your feelings. And on top of that, you can start having maybe some one-on-one therapy sessions to talk about how you're feeling. I know it probably didn't exist then, or it might have done, but
we weren't aware of it if it did.
Would you have gone to that?
Of course. Because if you can offload to the right people, sometimes I feel people offloading to the wrong people, which is only going to frustrate your situation. So it's very important that you share your feelings, your emotions with the right people. And it's what's needed, absolutely.
Do you think some of those emotions that you felt at that time still sit with you? Do you think you've fully moved past that stage of your life? Or do you feel, because I know as men, we want to build empires. We want respect. We want to be the providers. We want all these things. And there's countless men who end up living their whole lives feeling like their potential wasn't fulfilled. They've taken jobs that they don't like. They haven't got the respect they desire. They're not living the life they want to live. Do you feel like you've fully moved past that and come to peace with it?
No, because I am not where I want to be. But that's the sort of, I suppose it's my own needs. Outside, it's fine. But inside, it's my fulfillment. So if you were to sort of say, Ben, Dad, are you fulfilled? I would, no, just telling you now, no, I'm not, because I'm still searching. Yeah. So I'm trying to balance the life around the family, but I keep quiet. But right now you're asking me, I'm telling you, I'm not completely over it.
What is that fulfillment that you're searching for?
I think, Naroop, as men, we have this feeling of wanting to achieve something, to be successful, right? Others may look at you right now and say, oh, you're fairly successful. Look, you've got a couple of boys, they're doing very well. You've got a nice beauty business. But I would look at that's great. But what about my feelings? What did I achieve? So my personal agenda, I suppose, if you like, is, I still have this niggle that I want to do something in my life. And that is what keeps me going. Quite frankly, if I didn't have that, life is, as Dad would say, eat, drink, and marry is okay, but, you want to do something in life.
What's really interesting about this conversation is that divorce is quite common now. We never really hear how the parents of the people who are getting divorced feel about the situation. We hear about how that person whose marriage has come to an end, how that person feels, but we never really hear from how their parents feel, right? So your generation, divorce wasn't as common.
It wasn't as prevalent, but it's there.
So what would you share with all the people out there who are going through lives as single parents, who may not know what their parents feel? What would you say to those people about the kind of emotions you guys feel when you realize that their children, the ones that they love, their marriage has come to an end, and now the man or the woman is raising these child separately? Because they may not have those open conversations, or like you said, sometimes the parents don't want to step in and offer that guidance, but they may not know how it affects them.
And also, Naroop, the individuals themselves may also be different. You know, I can only speak from our perspective, right? But all I would say is everybody, when they go through something like this, it does affect not just the person who's, let's say if you talk about divorce, not just the person going through divorce. Of course, it affects the family, siblings, etc. How you can overcome that is through trust. You know, I think the one thing that we got to keep open is the channels of communication. You know, sometimes it may be only a little thing that you're talking about, but those little things, if you can build up on it, can help to improve the situation until you feel you can handle the real issues. But that is what I feel. We feel that we're not always able to do that. Because, you know, you might feel you're coming from one angle, parents are coming from another, and unless they accept that we're, yes, our understanding of a situation may be based upon our own experiences, and, you know, your children, you know, will have their own experiences. But ultimately, the goal is the same, to bring peace, to bring comfort to the, you know, person.
What I want to try to go back to a little bit is to talk about when you were young, when you were in your 20s and 30s, in growing up in Southall, there must have been so many men who suffered from mental health issues, right? And usually you'd find them down at the pub. A lot of time now you still do, right? What was said within the families? What was said within the friends groups about men who weren't coping well? Like, was there any sort of support? Would the friends come in and, like, because now we can see it's everywhere. Your friends see you're struggling, they'll call you up. You all right, mate? How you doing? You know, there's opportunities to go to events or go online, see a YouTube video, listen to podcasts to learn about dealing with and managing difficult times and emotions. At that time when you were growing up, just paint me a picture of what a man would go through, or that kind of environment at that time.
Well, from what I can recall, in sort of our experience in those early days, we weren't aware of any support systems apart from, you know, friends or family. And friends and family aren't always able. You know, I was telling you, it's important who you listen to. So your friend or your family may not have the ability to be able to listen well and then guide. So that's where we were. But I would often hear people simply, oh, he's lost it. He's gone off the rocker. He's hit the bottle. I wish he wouldn't drink so much. Or I wish he wouldn't always be fighting. I wish he wasn't so angry. But they don't look at why they may be going through what they are. You know?
I saw this video yesterday when they said, if a flower isn't growing right, don't blame the flower, look at the soil. And a lot of the time, the environment that these men are in or were in was the wrong environment. So how could they grow and blossom and be the best version of themselves when the environment was so bad? What would you say with these men who are going through these challenges? How would you encourage them to get out of that environment? Because sometimes the biggest challenge I find when you're trying to help a man through a difficult time is to get him to see that what he's doing is not helping him, because their environment becomes their safety, right? They go to places where other people can validate their feelings. Other people are suffering with similar challenges. Other people say, yeah, don't worry about it. You know, I was getting the same stress. Let's get a pint in, whatever it might be. How would you pull that man out of that soil and plant him somewhere where he can truly flourish?
Well, I think at first that individual has got to have the feeling that enough is enough. I want to change. Because one thing I know, anybody that's not ready for change, you can't help them. You can give them all the advice, but they're not going to shift. But if there's someone, they're ready for change, now they need the confidence and the trust factor in the individual or the organization that they're going to go to, that it's going to be able to help them, you know? So let's say if I was a negative kind of guy, oh yeah, there's that organization, but no, it's all waste of time. They go there, they sit, talk. It doesn't help. I'm the one who's negative already. So some people like that means I haven't really got to that stage where enough is enough. But if I've reached that stage, and if I can build the confidence in someone, some organization, yeah, then you should go.
So this leads me on to the Dad Project. And I've told you bits and pieces, shared with you the vision of what we're trying to create and what I'm trying to build. When you first heard about what I was trying to do with this, bearing in mind it's a shift from working in photography, film and content, what were your initial thoughts and opinions?
I loved the idea because I thought, you know, personally, you're now working towards something that's going to help others, empower others, because it's something that was close to my heart anyway. And then realizing how much people needed it, when you kind of started looking and you see the pain around you, you think there is a lot that needs to be done. A lot of people don't open up, don't seek help. And, you know, sometimes what they need is a push from someone. First, to prepare them, guide them enough to sort of for them to realize that they've reached a stage where they want to move forward, and then, you know, seek that help. So I would be very proud to see you guys move forward with this project and be a beacon of light to lots of people. That's something that is very close to my heart.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate that. What would you say to men nowadays who are going through mental health challenges? If you could look back at your experiences of your life, the learnings you have, the things you've been through, where are men getting it wrong? What could men do differently? What advice could you give?
First thing is, a lot of men, they just bottle things up and they don't seek help.
Why?
Male ego, I don't know. It's just the way some people are, I guess. And then those that do open up, sometimes they just open up to a friend of theirs. And the friend, if they're lucky, may be the right person to help them. But on the other hand, you know, a friend isn't always necessarily, you know, going to have the ability to take you where you want to go. So, you know, that's what I felt. You know, there needs to be more and more organizations that can help these people.
What I think that you did, just as an observer, when you were going through your most difficult time, which I think is the closing of your business, is you kept moving. Right? You didn't stay still. You progressed towards something. Even if some of those ideas didn't quite work out exactly how you wanted, you kept moving. And one thing I think is important, as well as sharing, which is really important, and offloading and having someone or a therapist to guide you through that stage, is to see progress in your life. Because if you see progress in your life, you're working towards that light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
And I think that's something you did that maybe you may not have noticed, but I could see that as long as he's working towards something, he feels that there is value being created, that something can change, something can happen. And I think that is something that I would think from your experience, other men could learn from, is you don't have to necessarily achieve that goal, but work towards something. And if every day you're seeing there's movement, you're realizing your life isn't going backwards or isn't staying static, it's moving towards someplace, a better place. And that's what I would say as your son.
That's what I saw, Naroop. I told you earlier on that I had a particular way of looking at things. So one way what I always do is, you're at this stage, say A. That's where you want to be. Now, if whatever I'm doing is taking me towards my goal, I know and I don't know what time span between A and B is, but if I believe that I'm taking the right steps, yeah, and bearing in mind it's not always straight, it's up and down. That's the way life is. Then yeah, you carry on. It's when you don't have that belief, people would just give up. And I, luckily for me, I can't have that mindset where I think, oh, this is it. It's not gonna, not gonna work. I think no, stop. Keep taking those steps, and you will get there.
Yeah, I really agree with that. As we come to the end of this conversation, one of the fundamentals of the Dad Project is this sense of positive role models. The Dad Project is about showing men and giving men hope that life can change. And the dad is always regarded for a man as their role model, their superhero. And in my life, and I know for my brother, we're very blessed that you were the role model for us. And whenever I speak to anybody, I always say my dad was my first mentor. He helped forge my mindset. When you gave me the Think and Grow Rich, I know I had this natural desire to succeed, seeing what you've done, knowing the potential of my life. And I think every man deserves to have a role model and a superhero, hence the Dad Project. If they can't get it through somewhere else, they can get it through what we're creating, the platform we're creating. And so I want to say thank you for allowing me to be the man that I am. But when you think back at your life, and this will be the last question I'll ask you, how would you want to be remembered? How would Bindy Juti want to be remembered?
Wow. How would I want to be remembered? I'd like to think that I made an impact on someone's life. I like to say somebody got there could say, Bindy helped me, or said this and it helped me to overcome the challenges that they had moving forward. Because I can't say I would want anything more than that. People have built empires, people have built many things, but that's all I want. To somebody to say, you know what, so-and-so helped me move forward in my lives. And if you guys can do that for people, I think, what more could you ask for?
I'll add something to that, which is a little story, which might be a nice way to wrap this conversation up in a beautiful way. When I started to work in music videos and started directing, you've always had this burning desire to create a film about this Sikh saint, right? You never knew how you were going to make it, but knowing that my brother had gone into music, I was going to film, for you there was that light flickering, that candle flickering, that something could happen here. And you wrote, I think it was my 30th birthday, live your dream and fulfill mine. Yeah. And then I got that tattooed on my arm over here with an eagle to represent strength. So this tattoo is for you. And so when you talk about impact, I think you've had all the impact you could ever want, and much more to come anyway. But I'll end this episode. I'll end this episode in tears, as I'm known to cry about anything. But I just think this conversation for men to see a father and a son to have a very open-hearted conversation is so important, because if we can lead by example, I think we're forging the way for a much more beautiful and healed future.
Yeah.
Because I think there's living rooms across the world where father and son will be sat and they'll never talk about feelings and their emotions. And a lot of the time, the son needs to hear that the father loves them, that they're proud. The father needs to hear that the son loves him and is proud of him too. They both need the same thing.
Yeah.
But yet, they'll hide it through football on the TV. They'll hide it through sharing a can of beer. They'll hide it through whatever it could be, when really all they need to do is turn to each other and have an open conversation and say, look, Dad, you raised me well, you didn't fail me. And the son will say, did I live up to the expectations you had of me?
You know, Naroop, I would rather do this before it's too late for us. Dad, my dad, you know, he liked his tipple. He'd sit in the room, have a drink, and quite often he'd ask me, he said, Bindy, come and have a drink with me. I said, no, Dad, I'm busy. I've got a meeting. I've got this, I've got that. And then something he said, I will never forget. I mean, it's a bit of, in Punjabi, but he said, we all got to die sometime. Let's learn how to live. You know? And meaning, let's sit down. Let's have a drink. Let's have a chat. And then I was telling Nick when we met, I said, Nick, all I want is for us to be able to share a beer and have a chat. I remember last time we went to a pub in America. So whether you're having a coffee, a tea, a water, or nothing, but you're chatting. So important. And I'd like to think, I didn't realize how emotional I'd get today, but I'd like to think, you know, we can open out a bit more. We need this as well. You know, we need this as well. Just open up. Doesn't mean to have to say that you're having big issues, then you open up. No, just chatting. Amazing.
Thank you, Dad.
Thank you.
It's been great having you.
Thank you.
Thank you.